I've become increasingly intrigued by the question of what is good ownership of a football club. Now I'm going to focus on the Premier League because it's what I know the best, but I think you could extrapolate this to many different examples. And what got me here was I was thinking about two very specific clubs, both of which have spent roughly $1 billion under their ownership in terms of new players, gross, 250 million net. It was remarkable actually how similar they had both spent gross and net. One has also invested roughly 800, maybe as much as 900 into a new stadium that will transform its fortunes going forward. Hired managers that, if you look on paper, you'd sit there and say, yeah, okay, now I get it. Those are good managers. The other one also hired managers that, again, you look on paper and you go, wow, those are some top quality names. And the latter, did what I think everybody could define on paper as exactly what you want. Made the club sustainable regardless of performance on the pitch. And that has to be, in my view, a driving essence of every ownership group looking at buying into a sports team is how do I make this so it doesn't need more money from me? It doesn't need more money from external parties. It's entirely sustainable. We can still invest in players. We can invest in good quality training, etc. And okay, if we're going to redo a venue, well, stadiums cost an awful lot of money and we'll borrow money for that. But otherwise, this is a very sustainable project. And yet the fans hate both. So, the first is Everton. Moshiri spent roughly $1 billion gross and 250 million net on transfer players. Had managers, I'm going to check my notes here, but, Ronald Koeman, Sam Allardyce, Marcus Silva, Carlo Ancelotti, Rafa Benitez. Wrong part of the city, but, still, to many, a great manager. Even Sean Dyche, very successful. If you look at 800, 900 million on a new stadium that is about to open. Man United is the other club. Again, $1 billion spent on players, 250 million net. Managers like David Moyes, again, been successful wherever he's been other than Man United. Jose Mourinho, Louis van Gaal, even Ralph Rangnick, okay, brief, but you could say the only one that was a real punt was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Profitable every year, pretty much, as far as I can tell, despite the fact that they had, between 400, 500 million of debt. It didn't matter because they could still invest gross £1 billion on players. It's remarkable, right? And it makes me really struggle at times with what is the right model, because as a Chelsea fan, you had an owner who wanted to build a new stadium and put over $1 billion of debt on the club, but the debt he put on it was 0% interest and was shareholder loans. He only got kicked out of the club because of something completely out of his control. Understandable. Don't disagree with it. As much as as a Chelsea fan, it hurts. New ownership has come in. Again, I find it interesting that if you think about the regulator that is to come in, because the fan-led report written or authored by Tracy Crouch and others, and including Daniel Finkelstein, who's now on the board at Chelsea, states that institutions like hedge funds are not appropriate ownerships groups of football clubs. Okay, hedge funds and private equity are different. They're absolutely different. But I think they would probably have thought that private equity is probably in the same vein when it was being written. Of course, it was waved through because there was no actual regulator and government wasn't going to get involved because it was more important that they got Roman out than, from the government's perspective, the right owner in. But again, as a Chelsea fan, that they've spent on players, again, north of $1 billion on players. This time, though, it's, from the research you find online, maybe north of $1 billion of debt on the club, this time at commercial rates. So what's a good owner? The backing that Moshiri had, we believe, came from Usmanov. It's never been proven, but it's an open allegation, and it's just that, an allegation. But many Arsenal fans wanted Usmanov to be the owner of Arsenal and not Stan Kroenke. I'd say Stan Kroenke's done pretty well as an owner. Again, very stable club, well run, not overspending. Daniel Levy gets calls for his head on a regular basis. It's a sustainable club, well run. Okay, it doesn't win trophies, but As a Chelsea fan, I'll say they'll never win trophies. And the media will attack them for not being aggressive enough, not investing enough. And you have to sit here and go, this is a really interesting challenge we have, because I would say, particularly in terms of the Tottenham and Man United, these are well-run clubs. These are well-run clubs. They might not have won on the pitch, but they're well-run clubs. They're sustainable. They're what institutions really want. And when I mean institutions, I mean regulators, not necessarily what fans want. Anyway, it's just a thought. It's a challenge that I am having to toy with every day.